Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're test driving the 2025 Volkswagen Jetta GLI, and this is a 6-speed manual, very rare in today's landscape of cars. So we're gonna have a good look at it inside and out. We're gonna take it for a drive, and I'm gonna tell you what I really think. All right, my good friends, let's have a look at the car that Volkswagen has given us. This is the 2025 Volkswagen Jetta GLI. Now, 2026 models are going to be showing up pretty soon, virtually unchanged. As tested, we're at $35,000 and some change, and you can spend just a little bit more, but we're sort of in the sweet spot for the Jetta GLI. The front fascia as well as the rear fascia were redesigned for 2025, so it has had some updates and refreshes over the years since this generation of the Jetta was unveiled in 2019. Sharp LED headlights up front, and as you look at the night shot there, you can see there's a nice signature bar that lights up all the way across. They're very bright, they work very good at night, and at daytime they've got a nice look as well. Down in the lower fascia, nice red accent down there, a deeper lower skirt than you might find on the rest of the Jetta line. Coming around the corner, gloss black 18-inch wheels and bigger brakes on this, as you'd expect with the high-performance sedan. Red calipers, not only at the front, but at the back as well. This has the black package on it, and with that, you get the black painted mirror caps, you get black painted roof that really goes nicely. It all blends in with that glass panoramic roof panel. As we come back to the rear three-quarter view, we can see that the 7th generation Jetta has actually aged pretty well among the landscape of other cars that it competes against. It's got a nice long planted profile. It actually looks athletic in this trim. And as we look at the rear, you can see that we have had quite an update for 2025 forward. New taillights, a lot more of a crisp, bold design, I think. They're LED, like up front. When you look at the night shot, they've got a good signature look at night. They're very bright. And the lower fascia, of course, got a redesign for 2025 forward as well. Very nicely done. Tasteful, and I love the fact that you've got big dual exhaust tips back there, and those are functional. They're not fake doilies like some of the competitors are putting on their cars. It's a good look, and with these wider tires and with the extra black trim along the lower rockers and that lower fascia, this is a car that definitely has a planted look that says performance when you're walking up to it in the parking lot. The interior of the Jetta GLI is a place that I'm thankful to say has been considerably upgraded since the first of this generation arrived on the scene. And because back in 2019, when this Jetta first arrived, this had one of the most bargain basement, cheap, rental grade interiors you could find in its class. It has hard plastics. It wasn't very fun to look at, and it was just really not in keeping with the Volkswagen brand, in my opinion. Certainly not in keeping with a GLI performance sedan. But the good news is it has been updated over the years, and for 2025 forward, it's got a redesigned upper dash that is much more premium, not only in its look, but in its materials. And with the GLI, we've got more premium materials because we are darn near at the top of the trim grade ladder. Leather sport seats with the two-tone treatment. These have perforated leather. They're heated. They're ventilated. They have some beautiful red stitching that really gives them a nice look, a premium look. And that red stitching goes around to the door panels and across the dash. It just really looks good. It looks handsome. It looks businesslike. It's tasteful. Now, this chair, very comfortable. These seats hold you tight, and I love that in a sports sedan. They really keep you planted for the business of driving. I like them. They're comfortable. Now, this is a fully adjustable power seat for the driver, but the seat for the passenger is manual. Now, looking around, the steering wheel is heated leather. Ahead of me is a digital instrument cluster, full color. It is somewhat customizable, but not so much as some of the other competitors, but it's a nice steering wheel, a good shape. It's got a flat bottom. Down at the bottom, you can see it does have the GLI logo there with the red accents. Over here in the center is the most recent infotainment center that Volkswagen has to offer. It's not the biggest and the best. It does have a volume knob and a tuning knob, which I absolutely love. I hate it when they get rid of those. I'm still old-fashioned in that way. It does have the same user interface that we've seen for a while, which is getting a little bit long in tooth. It's a little bit clunky, a little bit sort of binary compared to some of the other competitors and where they've gotten with their user interface. But the good news is it does have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So I get in, my phone connects up to it, and I've got my user interface that I'm used to using no matter where I am, and I could care less about how not good the rest of it is. So this could be better, but the fact that you can connect your own device to it and have your home right there really goes a long way to overcoming a lot of the other things. It's got good sound. This has a subwoofer in the back, in the trunk, in the spare tire. So when you really crank this thing up, it's got good sound. Looking down further on the center console, this does have full climate control, a lot of gloss black, piano black plastic, the 6-speed manual shifter with red accents. One thing I do have to talk about are these cup holders. These are sort of a holdover of this console, old-fashioned from the beginning of this generation, hard plastic. These cup holders are octagonal. And guess what? Not a single drink that I have ever used anywhere is shaped like an octagon. And so that means there's nothing rubber, there's nothing in here that holds anything tight. And so when I put my coffee in here, it rocks around, it doesn't stay still, and it's annoying. This is awful. They really need to do something about this. Whoever designed this should be fired. It's one of the last respites of the old Jetta badness that this car had when it first came out. But really, that's my only complaint about this part of the interior. Looking up, this does have a moonroof. Now, it sort of looks like it's a panoramic roof from the outside, as we saw, but in truth, it's just sort of an oversized moonroof. It doesn't go all the way back into the back seat, but it does have a little bit more space than the standard moonroof, and it does flip open and slide. So very good there. Because this car has grown so much over the decades, one of the benefits to that is the fact that sitting back here in the back seat is actually quite pleasurable, especially in the compact sedan class. This is very spacious. Look at all the space that I've got. I've got about 4 to 5 inches in front of my knees back here, and these seats are set for my height, about 5'8" to 5'9", depending on what I'm wearing for footwear. But it's comfortable. These seats hold you. You are sitting down like a sedan, but that's fine because these seats hold you. This has the same level of trim on the seats back here. This leather is just as nice and comfortable in the back as it is in the front. Now, they did cheap out on the doors. The door panel trim and some of the beauty that you see here in the back, it doesn't match what the front passengers have. That's been something car companies have been doing. Honda does it. But since I mentioned Honda, the Honda Civic is a major competitor to this. The Honda Civic does not have this kind of space back here. Now, these seats, they do fold down in a 60-40 split to allow you to put bigger things in the trunk that can pass through up into the passenger compartment. But look at that trunk. Isn't that big? Nice and big. And the best part is that even though we are in a performance-oriented version of this car, they did not ditch the spare tire. This still does have a temporary spare in the back. If you look in the center of that spare tire, that big object you see is actually the subwoofer. So when you actually go to change your tire, you're going to have to deal with that a little bit. But that's how they get the sound in this car without taking up space elsewhere. All right, my friends, let's go for a drive. Now, when you step up into the Jetta GLI, you get a lot of performance-oriented equipment. It's not just the more powerful engine, not just the manual transmission or the DSG. It's a chassis that has an entirely different setup. First of all, and most important, this has a multi-link independent rear suspension, which is above and beyond the twist beam found in all of the other Jetta models. That is totally rental grade. This is not. It has bigger brakes, front and rear. The discs are larger in diameter, and they are, what I'm told, is essentially off of the Golf R. They help bring this car to a stop much faster and easier than do the stock brakes. It's got a stiffer suspension, stiffer springs, stiffer dampers, stiffer anti-roll bars. But most important, this has adaptive dampers that can adjust their stiffness not only on the fly as needed, but it's tied to the drive modes. This has Eco, Comfort, Normal, and Sport. I've got it on Sport right now, which is the stiffest setting, which I like. Gives this thing some nice moves, cattle guard. So out here on my favorite back road, this has got a nice, taut German feel, what you'd expect for buying this car in the first place. The steering is nice and heavy on Sport mode, a lot lighter on the other modes. Now, this is noisy pavement out here. One of the things that I've noticed is that it's pretty noisy in here. You might be able to tell. The drive mode does crank up the engine sound quite a bit. So you do hear the engine quite a bit more than you do on the lower modes. But this is just a joy to drive out here. It's got nice steering feel. It feels of quality. It feels refined. It's got that German driving experience that so many manufacturers, Asian and American, have tried to duplicate and just haven't quite gotten there. Now Honda, I will give them the fact that they've gotten pretty close. They've gotten pretty close with the Honda Civic Si and the R, but it's still just a little bit different. But this car, it just has that feel out here on the back road that you want to have. And the drive modes, of course, if this is too stiff, you can always dial it back. But why would you when you can just throw this into a corner? Woo! That's just beauty. So I'm very impressed with this chassis, obviously. It's got all the bells and whistles, and there's other things I haven't talked about, but the driving experience and how this feels and reacts and how it responds to throwing it into a corner is way different than any of the other Jettas. Definitely worth a step up in price, and that's what you're spending up for. Now we've got to talk about what's under the hood, because it's a big deal. Quite a bit bigger than the standard engine. 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This is the Generation 3 of the E888, not the more modern Generation 4 that you're going to find in other Volkswagens. But one of the benefits of that is this still comes with a manual transmission that we have here. You can get it with an automatic DSG if you want, but you can still get the manual. That is huge. I'm telling you, folks, that's big. 228 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, and fuel economy that's quite impressive given the amount of performance that this car has. This also has an electronically controlled torque sensing differential that can really divvy up the torque and the power just right and help prevent torque steer. And that's important because when you have a vehicle with this much power, front wheel drive, and you can turn the traction control off, well, that's a good thing to have. So I guess the question becomes, how does it go? So let's see if I can do a good launch or not. Woo! So I just got up to the rev limiter, a little bit of wheel hop, and 60. Woo! That's tire smoke. Okay, so that was kind of a sloppy launch. But, you know, both front tires spinning. I can smell tire smoke in here like crazy. So yeah, you can have some fun with this thing that you can't have with most cars that shut your ass down, get all parental on you. This one does not. This one will let you go out and just fry the tires left, right, sideways, and into the ditch if you don't know what you're doing. Now, it's not quite like the Cadillac CTS-V I brought out here that wanted to kill me with its 600 plus horsepower and rear wheel drive, but this is almost as much fun for, well, about half the price, maybe even less than half the price that car was. So a lot of power, a great sound, and with these drive modes, this thing really becomes a louder car. This thing really has a lot more engine sound when you dial it up to sport, and it just changes the tone with the soundificator thing going on under the hood. So it's a lot of fun. This is a powertrain that is definitely worth a step up. Yes, doesn't have some of the technical bells and whistles you'll find in the GTI or some of the other Generation 4 E888 cars, but this is still pretty good. Cattle guard. Whew, that was tire smoke everywhere. Did you see that? All right, my friends, there you have it for our walk around, our sit-in, and our test drive of the 2025 Volkswagen Jetta GLI. I like it. And I have to tell you, when this generation Jetta first arrived in 2019, it was not my favorite Volkswagen in the showroom. It didn't press my buttons. There were a lot of things about its powertrain and its handling, its cheap interior that just really sort of turned me off, having been a long-term Volkswagen owner several times over and an enthusiast. I have high expectations for the brand. The good news is over the years, they have curated this car. They have upgraded the interior, they have upgraded the performance here and there, and they have certainly upgraded the styling. I think this latest update with the front and rear fascias, those taillights, the headlights, is one of the best looking versions of this generation Jetta. And the performance, not very many cars you can get anymore with a manual transmission. There are a couple out there, and you can find them if you're looking in this category. You know what they are. I'm not going to mention their names, but they do exist, but very few. And honestly, finding one with a manual at a dealership is probably going to be the bigger task, because they're not making that many of them, and the ones that do show up are getting snapped up, and they should, because at $35,000, this is a very competitive sports sedan. And while there are competitors out there, this is the only one that has German engineering, a German flavor, and a German feel, and that's hard to beat. And even though it's not necessarily built in Germany, it's built at Toluca, Mexico, it has the same quality, the same dynamic character, all the same stuff you'd expect from any other Volkswagen out there. So I like it. I think they've done a nice job. And even though this is a car that is quite a few years old now in terms of a generation, not the newest version of its engine, it still puts a smile on my face every time I drive it. So there you go, our test drive of the 2025 Volkswagen Jetta GLI. The 2026 going to be virtually identical. If you like what we do, see our latest video right there. If you really like what we do, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.